Okay, call to order a special meeting for the City of East Grand Forks for August 13th, 2024. City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Steve Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Holstead.
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Riepel.
Here.
Council Members Clarence Vetter.
Here.
Ben Pukshavinsky.
Here.
Dale Helms.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson.
Does term quorum. Number 1, consider approving the fireworks pyrotechnic special effects permit application for the fireworks display during the Hot Valley Nights event, contingent upon the applicant meeting city requirements and operator being certified by the State Fire Marshal. Is there a motion? Move. Moved by Riepel.
Second.
Second by Vetter. Questions or discussion?
I'll just let everybody know everything was turned in. They do have a person there that is certified by the State Fire Marshal, and the insurance was received. So everything that was needed was received.
Good. Anybody have any questions? If not, roll call, please.
Pukshavinsky.
Yes.
Riepel.
Yes.
Helms.
Yes.
Holstead.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Vetter.
Yes. Motion is carried. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Moved by Helms.
Second.
Second by Larson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Meeting's adjourned. Call to order the City Council work session for the City of East Grand Forks for August 13th, 2024. The City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Steve Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Holstead.
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Riepel.
Here.
Council Members Clarence Vetter.
Here.
Ben Pukshavinsky.
Here.
Dale Helms.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson.
Does term quorum. Number 1, update from Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. Marty.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Marty Seifert. I am the senior lobbyist for the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. We're made up of 106 cities outside the 7-county metro area. The handout at each of your stations, and for the public there are handouts extra back on the table, just to give you a little recap of the legislative session that was. If you take a look at the handout that I have, there's kind of a brief overview of the drama that happened at the legislature. They started out with a couple bills, one fixing some tax problems and a little of this and that, and then essentially didn't do much of anything for about 3 months. And then in May, crammed the entire supplemental budget and a bunch of policy into a multi-hundred-page bill that nobody had time to read, and passed it with 1 minute before midnight, and kind of a lot of yelling and screaming and so forth. The biggest disappointment probably from the coalition was no bonding bill. Bonding bill, of course, funds things like sewer, water, roads, bridges, streets and college buildings, roofs, things of that nature, capital improvements. And they didn't pass one in the bonding year of 22, so then they came in the budget year 23 and passed a bonding bill. So our hope is that, being that they didn't pass one this year in the bonding year, they'll come back next year and pass the one that didn't pass this year. The big difference, of course, they did not actually assemble a final bill for consideration. So the legislators never had a final bill to actually read, approve, vote on. The negotiators were kind of meandering around the last few days of session. The big fight over Uber and Lyft, stemming from the Minneapolis City Council, dominated Saturday. So the Senate passed the EMS aid bill unanimously at about 9:01 a.m., 9:30, whatever it was, and then they went into recess the rest of the day. This was the second last day of session, and passed no more bills until they came back, and then they kind of rammed that supplemental bill through, and there was no bonding bill to even consider. Now that has to originate in the House. The House could have brought it up and passed it, but they didn't. That is one of the few bills that has to be bipartisan, so they do need Republican votes to pass the bonding bill. I know Deb Keel is retiring here, but she would be one of those that would vote, with the other side if she had projects for her district. She'd just say, you know what, I'm going to vote for the bill. So they've had other years where they have had to have 9 or 10 Republicans. They usually get about 20 or 30, and she was usually one of those people, because there's always bonding needs somewhere. Red Lake Falls has a sewer and water project. Crookston always has something for the college or what have you. You guys sometimes have something. So, at the end of the day, the bonding bill is very, very important because we don't have the economy of scale to pay for all these different needs that we have. So I'm going to have you just open this up to page 2. The EMS aid bill, very important for a lot of our cities. I know up in this area, oftentimes your hospital will run the EMS system, or a nonprofit, or the county, or what have you, but in some parts of rural Minnesota, the city is on the hook for all the EMS and ambulance services, and they're now cross-subsidizing the fact that they need to have EMS services because there just isn't enough money to run them. Medicaid and Medicare pay 39 cents on the dollar. No efficient business person can run a business at 39 cents on the dollar, and that's a majority of their calls in a lot of these rural towns. And so we were able to get a bill passed. We asked for $120 million. We got, I think, $24 million at the end of the day, but we'll take 24 over 0. Essentially what they did is they cut the Metro out and Mayo Clinic and said, you guys are making plenty of money, you have economy of scale, so that knocked the bill, I think, down to 80. And then they said, well, for capital costs, a lot of times you do fundraising, this and that. So this was really just to provide kind of that basic supplement for staff and those that are kind of, their lips are below water on the EMS side of things. We will be back next year to try to have a more permanent solution on that, by the way. Also on page 2, there's a discussion of the missing middle housing bill. Essentially what that was is the state legislature was going to mandate zoning to a lot of extents. So you may have your plan for East Grand Forks and say, this is a single family home neighborhood over here. What the legislature was going to do is they were just going to say, you know what, if a developer wants to throw a low-income fourplex in next to a bunch of single family homes, your planning and zoning and your city council can do nothing about it. No objection, no input. That's just the way it is. And we obviously had a big problem with that because we're local control. So they had this big group of the Realtors Association and the Chamber and the builders and the unions and the religious groups and the housing advocates, 40 groups in favor of this bill. And then on the opposition was us and the league. And we killed the bill. So we appreciate any input that you gave. I think Deb Keel was against it, but any input that you gave to the legislators, we do appreciate that, because that was like a David Goliath type thing. I mean, if any of you watched that bill in committee, the line of testifiers for the bill was a mile long, and then it was us in the league. And, we will always stand with local control consistently, that you understand planning and zoning, and you also understand your sewer and water system and how your city is engineered. And if the legislature plops a bunch of multifamily housing into something that was engineered for single family, and you're trying to have 18 people poop into a pop bottle that was made for a single family home for 3 people, that doesn't work. And they don't understand that. Well, we explained it to them, and a lot of the legislators figured it out. And there was bipartisan support and there was bipartisan opposition. So it wasn't necessarily a partisan thing. It was local control versus non-local control, in my opinion. If you look at this handout inside, there's a little chart that if it has a check mark, it means that it passed that part of the process. So for example, adding LGA appropriations adjusted for inflation ongoing. Legislature likes to either do things on a zero-based budgeting basis and not put things on auto growth, and so that didn't go too far. There's another one to allow cities to authorize their own local option sales taxes under certain circumstances. That actually had support in the House and Senate but failed in conference. The House Tax Committee chair is not big on the local option sales tax, so last year there was no local sales tax article. She kept the whole thing out. EMS bill, as I mentioned, $24 million. And then if you look at the bottom chart, wastewater and water infrastructure, because there was no bonding bill, that whole thing basically went away. On the back side, same thing with child care and economic development. Because of the lack of a bonding bill, a lot of those things didn't pass. The licensure reform. On child care, we've got new regulations coming, which are very, very difficult, particularly for rural providers. And, we are going to have input that it is not workable. We already have too many daycares closing now. I mean, we can't have more regulated. We have more regulations in our neighboring states, and we've got thousands of empty child care slots that just are not being or not empty, but waiting lists. We are having an epidemic on the child care side, so we're trying to do some of those licensure reforms as well. Then transportation, they did have a transportation bill. We did get some one-time bridge funding for city streets of all sizes, and that's not bridge like you drive on a bridge. It's like bridge money, meaning we tried to increase the money for the small city grant program above where it was last year. It was at $27 million, so we dumped in another 11. Now, a small city is below 5, so you don't count in that. All these little towns up here that are outside East Grand would get an extra amount of money. And then corridors of commerce, we bumped in another 15 million trunk highway bonds. That's like Highway 2, Highway 75, Highway 59, those kind of major corridors that connect Minnesota. Usually in the budget year, we try to get $400 million in that program. This was a supplemental year, so they just had a few extra bond capacities to put in another 15 million, so they put that in there, and it's not going to get you a whole lot of roadways for 15 million. Usually the $400 million will get you a lot more, but we just want to keep funding that on an ongoing basis. I think that's everything that I've got for you. I can stand for any questions. There's some important dates in here. Legislative Action Day is February 12th. Our fall conference is in Alexandria, November 21st, and that's probably where our legislative agenda will get finalized in terms of items that you want us. You are the members. We want you to determine the agenda for what happens at the Capitol. I don't sit down and determine it. Bradley doesn't sit down. We hear from our board of directors. They want us to focus on child care. Last year they said get on this EMS thing because we got a lot of cities that are just drowning in red ink on EMS, so we focused on that. Probably a bonding bill. But we handle bread and butter issues. Our firm does not get involved in gun control and gambling and all those other fun issues that make a lot more money for their firms. We try to deal with bread and butter things to make sure people have a road to drive on, that when they flush their toilet, it flushes, and so forth. So things that aren't quite as fun as the legislature deals with, but I think it's enjoyable, and I appreciate the support that you've given us as a member of the coalition. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
Anybody have any questions for Marty? Mayor.
I guess I will just say, first of all, without you guys down there, we'd be in a world of hurt because of how close the metro is to the St. Paul and the deliberations that take place. So thank you for us that can't travel down for every little issue. Thanks for being there. Also for the fact that it's a kind of a collaboration of all the smaller towns, kind of a clearinghouse. You kind of check the temperature of what your constituents are after, and then you bring that. Appreciate it. It's also a good thing that you're well connected on both sides of the aisle down there. It's a big deal because the power is going to shift from one side to the other, and the fact that you have good connections on both sides helps us out a lot. So thanks for the great work that you guys do.
Good, appreciate that. And one thing we worked on last year, I think that you guys had been on us for a long time, was that LGA formula fix, and not going backwards by $100,000 a year until you didn't have any LGA left. So that did get fixed last year on a permanent basis instead of this one time. We're always like, okay, East Grand and War Road and Detroit Lakes need this, and then they'd stick it in the bill that your LGA wouldn't go backwards. But those are Band-Aids. Now it's a permanent change to the law that your LGA doesn't go to zero at some point. And that was a worry when I started here 10 years ago. I think I've been coming to you guys for 9 or 10 years. It was kind of at a fever pitch when I first came, and we Band-Aided it over a few years, and now hopefully that'll be a fix that'll stay.
Anybody else have anything for him? See none, sir.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Number 2, request to file plans and specifications for 2024 City Project 1 for SCADA system improvements. Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we've been working hard. If you remember, we consulted with Integrated Process Systems, so we've been working with them, having a lot of Teams calls, but we're getting to the point where we're finalizing plans. Thanks a lot to Dylan Nelson and Corey Thompson. They've been very instrumental in helping out with this project too. So I want to send a big thank you to those guys. So So again, we'll be filing plans and specs at the council meeting next week. Then looking to we'd like to get authorization to proceed with advertising of the project, and then setting a bid date for 10 a.m. on September 10th. So that's where we're at.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Emery? See none, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 3, consider 2024-25 winter recreation fees. Mr. King.
Thank you, Council President and City Council. In the 2024 budget, we planned a 15% fee increase for our winter activities. This increase is intended to help offset the operating cost for winter activities. We received some feedback from our Northern Lights Figure Skating Club and the Blue Line Club after we shared this fee schedule with them. They gave us some feedback that we're approaching the point that we could discourage some families from participating. So with that feedback in mind, as we structured our fees for the 2024 winter activities, we put the larger fee increases towards the more advanced levels while keeping the entry-level fees still affordable for families so that the younger kids can still participate. Registration is set to open August 22nd. Also wanted to note that these fees all align with the other communities within our region. And the recommendation would be to approve the fees as displayed in the attached fee schedule.
Do you have any questions for Mr. King? I see none, sir.
Okay,
appreciate it. Renee, did you want to say something? Sorry, I'm going off.
Hello, members of the council. Nice to see you again. Just wanted to let you know that we're moving forward with that Laura Jane Musser grant that we received, and we are doing some dine-in dialogues. And we're partnering with Northland Community College, Community and Technical College. They're doing a great job, very enthusiastic. So our first one is September 7th. It's going to be from 6 to 8. And then the second one is October 5th. And I would really love for all of you to be there. So if you need me to come pick you up, I will drive you to the place. Make sure that you're sitting with someone who will chat with you and not leave you hanging out in the air. The hope is, our two goals are to really help people connect better with their neighbors. So we're hoping for a diverse number of people at the event, and we'd love you to bring your families, bring your friends. And then the other goal is to think about, we're going to be talking about how to make East Grand Forks a more welcoming and inclusive community. So what ideas do people in the community have to do that? So those are our two goals, and that's coming up on September 7th and October 5th, and you know how to get a hold of me if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Reed did forward the email to everyone, so everybody has that in their emails. So, all right, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Holmes.
Second.
Second by Prachinsky. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.